Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to be comparing two very popular long wear foundations. This week's foundation battle, as I'm going to be calling them, is between Kat Von D's Lock-It Tattoo Foundation and good old Estee Lauder Double Wear. Double Wear foundation has been a staple in my foundation collection since it came out. I don't even know how many years ago, but quite a long time ago. Now, Kat Von D Lock-It, I did try when it first came out. I'm thinking it had to be at least about 5 or 6 years ago because I was living in Minnesota at the time that I tried it, and I've been back in Vegas for 4 years. So it had to be at least 4 to 5 years since this came out. When I first tried the Kat Von D, I felt like it was really thick, and while it had beautiful full coverage and it wore well, I just didn't like the way it felt on my face. So I kind of set it aside and didn't really use it much. Now, over the years, I would hear different things about the Kat Von D Tattoo Foundation, that it had perhaps been reformulated. More and more beauty gurus were raving about it. So I knew I wanted to try it again. I just never got around to doing so because there's so many different foundations that keep popping up that I feel compelled to try. So cut to a couple weeks ago, I was preparing to go to a friend's party out of town, and I knew it was going to be exposing a lot of skin, so I decided I was going to start self-tanning. So when you self-tan, you obviously have to choose a foundation shade that's a little bit darker than your normal. So I wanted to go in and just get some samples because I wasn't sure if I wanted to buy a full-on brand new foundation, spend $30, $40, $50 on a new foundation. So I went to Sephora and I asked for some samples, and I decided to sample the Kat Von D because I had heard really good things about it. It's been several years since I tried it. They have a great color selection. So I came home with a sample of the M58 Neutral. I took the M58 home, tried it, loved it, thought, this is great. This is definitely different than I remember. It definitely went on nicer, and the color match was great. And so I did go ahead and I bought the full size. Now, whenever I post a foundation review on my channel, I inevitably get some comments asking me how that foundation I'm reviewing compares to another one that I have reviewed and liked in the past. They'll say, oh, well, you like this one, do you like it better than this one? So I get lots of comments like that. So I started thinking that maybe instead of just commenting individually to the people who were curious, I would start putting some foundations up against each other and seeing how they compare. Because when you ask me, how I like it better than another, sometimes it's hard for me to remember why I did or didn't like a specific foundation, what the pros were, what the cons were, why do I actually like one over the other. So I decided I'm gonna start putting some foundations and concealers and just different things head to head, wear them throughout the day, let you guys see what the results are, and give a final thought so I can give you guys a real solid answer as to which one I prefer. Now, just to have a very brief background on me, if this is the first video of mine you're watching, I have oily, very oily, mature skin. I am over 40, so I have some blotchiness, I have marks from old breakouts. I typically like a fuller coverage foundation, and long wear is really, really important to me. So before I get to the application demo and the check-ins and the analysis at the end, I do want to say that I am recording currently this intro on my Sony, but all of the application and all the check-ins will be on my iPhone because I have had some comments where people are kind of critical of not just myself, but other YouTubers when we film on these cameras that often have built-in smoothing filters. I have mine set to off. I swear to you, I have mine set to off. But sometimes the lens, it just automatically smooths a little bit. So a lot of times people think they're not getting like the full effect of how a foundation covers or holds up if the camera is altering it in any way, shape, or form. So I decided to film all that on my iPhone. Hopefully you guys will like that as much as I don't, because it shows every little thing. But truthfully, the iPhone is gonna give you the most realistic picture of how the product works. So without further ado, let's get into the first foundation battle. I am using the shade Medium Neutral 58 and a damp beauty blender. Now I do have 2 beauty blenders, one for each foundation, so that nobody thinks that there was any cross-contamination of the foundation. I have been self-tanning my body, so my face is much lighter, so it is gonna look dark as it's applied, but then I will blend it down. And this is one I've been using, and it blends perfectly, and I've been wearing it in most of my videos lately. As I mentioned in the intro, I'm also recording with my iPhone so that you can get the clearest picture of the foundation. There is no filtering on this, no softening. This is my skin, redness and splotchiness, all there. And so you will definitely be able to see how these foundations go on. So I'm using one pump. And again, this is the Kat Von D. So my left side will be Kat Von D. Now I do love the coverage this gives. It gives full coverage in one pass, and I am patting it into my skin. It smooths out my pores. It doesn't make them disappear, but it smooths them out. Some foundations accentuate pores. This one definitely smoothing and giving an overall even tone. It's a matte finish, but it's not flat. It blends very, very easily. I had used Kat Von D foundation in the past when it first came out several years ago, and I felt like it dried really quickly and it was very difficult to work with. Then again, I am using a damp beauty blender, so I'm not sure if that makes a difference, but this is going on really, really nicely. Okay, so here you have the Kat Von D and nothing. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to the right side of my face and the Estee Lauder Double Wear. So the darkest shade I own in Double Wear is Tawny. This is my summer shade, but it wasn't quite dark enough to match up with this Kat Von D. So I did go to an Estee Lauder counter and got some samples. There wasn't anything, again, identical, but the closest I found was Pebble or Wheat. So I'm gonna try Pebble because it looked to be the closest. So neither of these are quite identical to the Kat Von D, but I'm gonna have to make them work. I think I'm gonna go with the Pebble. So using a different beauty blender, I am now applying the Double Wear to the right side. Oh yeah, definitely a little darker, but we're gonna make it work. Now surprisingly, I'm finding this is going on much dewier. This one is much more matte. As it's applied, this one is much dewier. Can you tell? It almost has like a sheen to it, which is surprising. I never noticed that any other time I've applied this foundation. I would say the coverage is nearly identical. They both covered the marks from old breakouts that I have along my jawline on both sides. They also both kind of covered the pores in the same way, where they didn't make them flawless, but they definitely smoothed them out. This one has dried down to a much matter finish. So for our last look at the application, this is the Kat Von D side, this is the Estee Lauder Double Wear side. So now I'm gonna head upstairs and finish off my face. I am going to be powdering this because I'm super oily, so I powder down every foundation to set it. I'm going to be using today my Laura Mercier translucent setting powder. A lot of you know I don't use that setting powder to bake under my eyes, just want to put that out there, but I do like it to control oil on my face. So that's what I'm going to be using to set my foundation, and I'll come back every 2 to 3 hours and check in with you and see how each one is holding up. Okay, so it's currently 11:30 a.m. so I've had both of these foundations on for about 3 hours. And while I can't see very well in looking in the camera phone, I did check out all of my mirrors upstairs. I did look closely in a bunch of different lights, and I noticed that everything looks pretty much exactly the same as when it was first applied. I see no difference really at all, and I looked very closely between the two, and I'm shiny, but that is standard for any foundation I try, no matter how oil controlling or long wearing it claims to be. I always get shiny after an hour or so. So I'm not super shiny, but there's definitely some oil breaking through, but it's equal on both sides. And as far as the coverage, I haven't lost coverage from either side. I've had a little bit of a runny nose today, so I've been kind of touching my nose a little bit, but so far everything seems to be holding up pretty well. Colors haven't changed, no oxidization, so far so good, and I'll check in a couple more hours. So it is now 3:30 in the afternoon. I've had my makeup on now for about 7 hours. Once again, this is the Kat Von D side. This is the Estee Lauder Double Wear side. I decided to come back down to the basement because I was really struggling in the natural light and in different mirrors around my house to see any difference. I mean, they both looked exactly the same, and I thought there has to be something different about them. So Let me go back down to the basement in these lights and just look really close up into a mirror and see what differences I can find. Overall, I think they both look really good. I have not blotted, so now you can see what I mean when I say I'm oily. I have not blotted all day long, but I will say that I'm equally shiny on both sides. So looking closely into this mirror, this side, the double wear side, is actually more shiny. It has definitely emphasized my pores a little bit more through here. Not bad though. Overall though, there really isn't much to report. They look still nearly identical. The color, you would never know I was wearing two different colors. You would never know I was wearing two different foundations. They're both on just as well as they were when I first applied it. I haven't lost any coverage in my T-zone, around my nose. Again, just a little redness around here from blowing my nose. No oxidization. So yeah, there's a reason why I really love both of these foundations. They are holding up equally well. One little side note for you, I did notice when I was looking up the prices of both products on Sephora that the Kat Von D claims to be a 24-hour foundation, whereas the Estee Lauder claims to be a 15-hour foundation. I'm gonna try to get as close to 15 hours as I possibly can, but I don't know. I usually take my makeup off by 8 or 9 p.m. So that is likely when I will do my last check-in. So I'm not gonna get to 15 hours for you, but hopefully this will still be helpful. I cannot go about my day any longer with this shine, so I'm gonna powder. So now that I've powdered, I do feel so much better. I feel like my foundation looks just as good now as it did when I applied it at 8:30 this morning. Let's see if this good luck holds up, and I will check in with you in about 4 more hours or so, right before I get ready to wash this all off. So I'll see you guys in a little bit. Okay guys, it is now 8:30 p.m. I have had this makeup on for 12 hours. And I am ready to grab my glass of wine and go watch some TV. So I really want to go take off all of this makeup. But before I do, I have to give you my final thoughts on this foundation battle. So as you can see, I am very, very shiny. I have not powdered my face since you saw me do it at the 3:30 check-in. So this is what it looks like. Again, I've been glancing in a lot of different mirrors before I came down to film this last check-in. And overall, my thoughts are the same as they've been all day. This foundation, both of these foundations hold up really well, especially on someone like me that's very oily. It hasn't, neither one of them has broken up on my face at all. I have not lost any coverage. The only thing I did notice, and I noticed this on the original application, is that the Estee Lauder side is definitely even though it's supposed to be a matte finish long wear, it definitely is not as matte as the Kat Von D. And looking at it now and looking at it in some other mirrors, I noticed that the pore refinement is much better on the Kat Von D. On the double wear side, my pores are more noticeable. I am more shiny. The color was a little dark to begin with, but it definitely has darkened over time. I didn't notice it earlier, but I'm noticing it now that the color has darkened just a hair. So overall, I would say these are both excellent foundations. If you are looking for a good long wear, then I highly recommend both of these. I will say though that if you are more to the oily side with large pores, I might look to the Kat Von D over the Estee Lauder Double Wear. I applied them both the same with the Damp Beauty Blender, and I did not use a primer. I'm pretty sure that both would perform a little bit better with, as far as like the shine control and the pore refinement with a primer underneath. But I'm just so happy with the way this Kat Von D looks still. It's just not nearly as shiny. My pores, again, are more refined. So for me, the winner of this first foundation battle was the Kat Von D. For the reasons I just went over, I feel less shiny. I feel like my skin overall looks better. I also prefer the color range in the Kat Von D. I find getting a match in the Estee Lauder, even though they have a lot of shades and they do separate them into cool, warm, and neutral, I've always struggled to find my correct shade in the Estee Lauder Double Wear. I have used Sand, I have used Rattan, I've used Tawny. Yeah, I just find the colors just hard to match. But the Kat Von D has a great range of colors, especially if you are someone more of the yellow olive tone, if you like your foundations to veer more yellow. So those are my final thoughts. These are both excellent foundations. I knew that going in, but I still wanted to see maybe what the comparison was between the two. And I hope that you also found some of this helpful. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up. Also, leave me a comment. Let me know what the next foundation battle should be, which ones you would like to see go up against each other. Would you like to see me do a high-end versus a drugstore brand? So just let me know. I'm always happy to hear from you guys. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you're not already. Follow me on Instagram and Snapchat. Both are Risa Does Makeup, and I'll see you guys very soon. Thank you so much for watching.